Hi, my name is Paul Bush, and today we're going to be talking with Troy Ryan about his Loon Lake UFO experience.
Well, it was up at Loon Lake, and we used to go there at least once or twice a summer. We've got my parents have a trailer up there, and funny thing is since that sighting we've never been back, which I find odd too because we used to go all the time. But anyways, we were camping there in the trailer, and it was just Sheila and I and the kids were, if I had to guess, probably 2 and 4 at the time. They were like in diapers still. Well, one was for sure, and but they were old enough that we were in the trailer playing cards. Right, so we're in the trailer playing cards, we're camping, having a couple of beers, and not the kids, just, me. and Sheila's, it's time to put the kids to bed. So I says, okay. And back then I still smoked cigarettes, so I says, well, I'm going to go have a cigarette. So I went out on the deck, which is joined to the trailer, so basically just opened the trailer door, stepped on the deck, and we're a lot from the lake. So when you step out, you can see the lake, you can see the mountain on the other side of the lake. And when I stepped out, I kind of looked, and I was looking towards the mountain. And the mountain, the lake is kind of between, it's not in a valley, but it's like it's in a valley, because you got a mountain on one side, and then behind where we're camping is the road, and it goes up the mountain. There's a mountain behind us as well. So there's, the lake is surrounded by peaks and mountains. But anyways, as I said, you could see the peaks, right, on both sides. So I stepped out to have a cigarette, just like you normally would. So I got my beer, pull out my cigarettes, have a cigarette. And you glance up and you start looking at the mountains and the view. And as I'm looking at it, there's 2 peaks on the other side of the lake. So picture 2 peaks, right, and a little U in the middle, and then it's kind of flat on the other side of this peak. I look over and I notice between the 2 peaks there's something there. And the first thought into my head, for whatever reason, is, why is that helicopter there? And as I'm looking at it, I go, because now I'm staring at it, and all of a sudden I realize, why did I think that's a helicopter? That's not a helicopter. What is that? And I go, it almost looks like a star or a planet or something. It was really bright orange and round. And I'm looking at it, and so as I'm looking at it, I'm going, well, I wonder, and I started looking up in the sky, and I thought I saw a couple more, like 2 more, but way off, that kind of looked like stars. And as I'm looking at this thing, and I'm looking up, all of a sudden I noticed, hey, wait a minute. I scanned over, like, say there's the peak, and then the object that I saw, and then the peak. On the other side of the peak, it was lit up. And by lit up, I mean, it looked like a spotlight, and the area of the ground was lit up by spotlight. That's what it looked like. However, there was a beam going from that position of the spotlight across the sky, across the lake, and behind me, literally almost right over my head, to the peak behind me. And I turned around and I looked at the peak behind me, and it was lit up, like light, like spotlights. And so now I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I'm staring at this UFO thing, and I'm thinking, what is that? It's orange like the sun. And then I'm looking at the beam, and I'm like, that beam is just, and so I started to, I'm analytical, so I started to try and figure out, what am I seeing? So I'm looking at the beam, and the beam, the best way I can describe it is it had a light blue hue to it. And the thing that I found fascinating about it was it literally went from peak, the bright light in that peak, to the bright light in the peak behind me, but it was solid in its formation, if you will. It was a beam, a straight beam, and it was about the width of a car turned sideways. And it didn't, like from what I know about light goes out and disperses and spreads. This didn't spread, and it was just as strong on this side as it was on this side as it was in the middle. and it was just one blue beam. I almost expected to see a cow go floating through it, like you see on sci-fi movies, kind of a thing. Like it was just the strangest thing. Now I stood out there for probably 45 minutes analyzing this thing. And in that 45 minutes, I had all sorts of thoughts. And by that I mean, I thought I should go get my camera and take a picture of it. And then I thought, if I go get my camera, they're going to come and get me and my kids. I can't. If I don't touch my camera, they're going to leave me alone. Now, why I was thinking stuff like that, I don't know. Were those kind of thoughts being put into my head, or was I just afraid? I can tell you I remember my feelings. I didn't feel afraid, but what I felt was more of a curiosity. What's going on? Why is that peak lit up? Why is the other peak lit up? What is that beam? And then, silly things like, is the army involved? Is this, what is going on? Because I had been up to the peak behind us before in my vehicle. There's nothing up there. It's just bush, right? With the road going through it. It's just bush. There's nothing there. And on the other side of the lake, it's even more, how do you say, people don't go there. There's nothing there. Like, you'd probably have to hike in there. I don't think you could drive to the spot where I saw the other light. So I can't explain it. And then the other thing that I found weird was I thought to myself afterwards, like, in reflection and thinking about it, someone else must have seen it. We're on a lake. It's the middle of summer. People are camping. Well, luckily we knew people that lived on the lake. So we went to their house the next day. And I asked them, I says, did you guys see anything last night in the sky that you would feel unusual? Because literally where I saw it, their house faces the same direction. So if they were looking out their window, they probably would have seen what I saw. And the thing that I found odd was back to, me having the thoughts that I was having. The woman says to me, yeah, I was doing the dishes last night and I thought I saw something. And I says, what did you see? She goes, I don't know, I just kind of poo-pooed it. I didn't really pay attention. And I found that to be an odd answer. Because why is it we see something that we can't explain and we just look away and go, oh, well. And instead of, like, I spent 45 minutes trying to figure out what I was looking at. And I still can't figure out what it was I was looking at. I can describe it, but that's about it. Because I don't know. I do know there is nothing up there to cause those lights. I just can't explain it, and I will say this though, I do skywatch a lot, and I think I've seen that ship around. It is, I think it's a common form. The only way to describe it's a round orange ball.
And was it and it wasn't something, and it was a stationary object.
It was stationary. I watched it for 45 minutes, and for lack of a better term, I got bored and went to bed. Said I'm going to bed. And then in the morning, it was gone. And the next night, I went out there at the exact same time. Nothing.
So it wasn't, in your opinion, it wasn't something that was like a low-level satellite or something.
That's why I went back out the next night just to see if it was going to be there again, and there was nothing there. There was no lights there was nothing.
How far off the ground or off the peak do you think it in your opinion?
In my opinion, it was probably 100 feet off the ground. Right? High enough that it was definitely in the air. It was not on the ground.
And did the orange glow come down to the 100 feet, or is it more
move.
Like the spotlight?
I didn't see anything move, and the lights weren't coming from that. It was more like that was the observer, or maybe that was the ship they were on, or, I'm just speculating now. It was just an orange ball floating there, literally, and the lights were independent of it. So the light was over here, and it was like the ground was lit up, and then the beam, and then the light was lit up over here, and no orange things over here. But with the one orange one that I did see that was close to these, probably, way up in the sky, it looked like there was another one.
And did you feel that, how did you feel? Like actually feel sensitivity-wise?
I felt scared.
Okay.
Actually. And that's one of the reasons I didn't get my camera. And I felt like it was weird. I almost got a feeling like I was only allowed to observe, and that was all I was going to be allowed to do. And that's all I did. I observed that thing for 45 minutes. I tried to analyze what I was seeing, what I was doing. I walked up to the road, which frightened me as well, because it's pitch black. There's nothing, nobody around. There's nobody to protect you if something comes out of the bush, right? And you're surrounded by bush and everything as well. So I was very apprehensive of not moving too far away from my family, but still trying to figure out what it was I'm looking at.
Do you think there was some sort of, do you think that it was projecting to you some sort of message?
No.
That only to you and not to others?
No, I didn't feel like there was any sort of message at all, but I felt more like you're seeing this, but don't show this to anybody, kind of a thing. Like I couldn't go get my camera. I'm an investigator. I investigate these kinds of things. Why wouldn't I go get my camera? What stopped me from doing that? Well, I know it was a little bit of fear. I was worried that if I went and started poking the bear, if you will, that my wife and children would be in danger, and possibly myself. So I just felt that I literally felt like you're allowed to observe. That's all you're allowed to do right now.